All right, so welcome back into the live stream today. We are ramping up after a July 4th weekend. A lot happened, of course. We are going to get into all those kind of cool things. Today, though, we're going to continue our build of our token list that is making up our portfolio to buy at the bottom. And then within that, you've got Bitcoin, Ethereum, and then you've got a whole slew of different tokens to break down. Today, we're going to break down the NFT tokens to take a look at. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back into TechPath. And of course, doing that with me is going to be Cheryl Spangler, who is our co-host over on Metaverse Insider. And hey, Cheryl, great to have you in on the show today.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, I see you're on the vacay. You're experiencing some relaxing time, so I appreciate you taking the time out for sure to do this.
Yeah, no, I appreciate having me on. No, it's a good break. It's a good break.
Good. Let's get into, maybe you guys have first jumped in on this, maybe this is the first episode, maybe you're following along. We've got a couple of things that are happening within this to kind of break it down for you. Let me just show you a couple of slides here to give you an idea of how this show is constructed. All right, so we have 8 parts that we're building, different layers of tokens. We're looking at, we've already done the layer 1 video, the layer 2 video, and also the payment video. So those 3 are up on YouTube right now, so you can watch all of those. Today we're going to do the NFT part 7 video. We're kind of jumping around mainly on stuff that we think are fun to do based on timing. We're going to get the NFT ecosystem part 7 video, and then this Friday we're going to be doing the Metaverse and Gaming shows as well. So you guys get a chance to see all that. Just so you know how this breaks down, the idea is pretty straightforward. We've got 30 tokens in our target list across those 8. We'll cut the 20% lower in a stack ranking process. The way that we rank these is we look at the CPI monthly average score, my own opinion on these tokens, and then your opinion, which we do through a poll, which we'll have here on the show today. And then we have our investment plan, which is 20K overall. We're going to put 10K in Bitcoin and ETH, and then take the other 10K and divide it up. So this is how it'll flow out. 33% each thing is weighted. That'll give us our ranking. Then we'll go into our investment targets. This was our layer 1s, which we had ADA, AVAX, and SOL. This was our layer 2s. We added Matic and DOT to the list. And then we added in our payment protocols, we added in XRP and HBAR. So far, that's the percentages. We may shuffle these percentages on investment targets overall. So just be aware that those are coming in that way. And then we'll add these as we go. By the time we're at the end, we'll have a nice stack ranking. We'll list that. We'll make this whole thing available over on CoinMarketCap as well. Let's get into a couple of things, Cheryl. I want to talk about this first token that we've got in our list today, and that is Affinity. When you look at Affinity and you think about what it does in relationship to Enjin and Polkadot and all that, is there anything within it that you really, because you've been in the NFT side of things for quite a while, what are your likes and maybe dislikes around Affinity?
Well, I think Affinity is an amazing token. I did, comment that I think that they reminds me of Cardano. And just so everyone knows, I am a Cardano lover. Because they're trying to do everything and solve all problems. And I felt like, let's just see how it goes. I still felt like there was a lot of information to gather, to put together, to basically figure out for one newbie individual or intermediate individual, just figuring out how is it going to help me like right now, and it's going to reduce fees.
Yep.
And I love what they're doing. It's just that it's still a lot of complexity for someone to figure out what is this token going to focus on for the next 12 months to help me as just a user doing NFTs. But I just think they have big goals, and step at a time. It just, like Cardano, they want to change the world. So,
yeah.
And I love that. But let's take it slow.
Right. Well, when you have, Polkadot as kind of the guiding light for where all of this is going, especially when you look at how it's connected with Enjin and the continuity there within the ecosystem. And if you think about NFTs, and I'm still on the fence about which chain is going to be the best chain for NFTs, and there may be multi-chains out there that absolutely kill it, because we're seeing all sorts of things happen within especially NFTs, that are really kind of prepping the market? Because this is the one thing that we're looking at. Remember, this portfolios is looking more of a long-term, mid-range to long-term hold, meaning more like at least a 1 to 3 year hold on most of these tokens as we build this out. But if you think forward and where the NFT market is going to be in the next few years, what are your thoughts on this, Cheryl, as far as, because there's a lot of people saying that the NFT market is starting to dwindle and it may never come back. Do you think we'll continue to see a rise in NFTs in, say, the next bull run?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I did have skepticism like everyone else when things are going for ridiculous amounts of money and then you just like, there's so much information. But yes, absolutely. I just think it's going to be more real world case and real businesses integrating. And I think Affinity is part of that. But yeah, I definitely think it's going to be part of the future. I mean, it's still hard for people to understand as far as a real world object having an NFT representation, no matter
Right.
what you buy in the future, that being something. But no, absolutely. I think this is the time to buy, even though the fear index is really low.
Yeah, exactly. High but low on the score.
Yes.
Yeah, I think the key here you mentioned is that once we get to the tokenization of most things in business, whether it's business elements that are in the medical field, the retail field, the real estate side, there's so many different markets out there that could really benefit from what smart contracts are doing. So a lot definitely going in that direction. Let's go and jump into Chiliz, which is one that we've looked at around the sports side of things, which is, we think, going to be one of the biggest growth sectors out there. If you look at Chiliz and maybe even what Socios has done overall, which is kind of the fan token system, what are your thoughts on projects that are trying to go in this direction, where they build fan tokens, they've got that platform for that, and they have these large communities that are centered around sports?
Okay, I love the fan token idea. I even had posted on Twitter some time ago that I think YouTubers will end up having fan tokens that decide
Yeah.
what you do, what content you do, and all that stuff. But anyway, I think that first of all, I downloaded their app and used it a while ago, and I think it needs some work. It doesn't necessarily, they didn't make it, like they didn't gear it for the US user, but I love the idea. I think that this is kind of off the wall, but like no one ever incorporates bodybuilding into any of these sport stuff. But that aside, um, fan tokens are amazing. Being able to decide, I think that is actually the future. This guy actually impresses me because for years, this is his thing. Everything
Hmm.
that he created and done literally since college has been this type of thing. And so I like that. And he's super accessible. You can literally just email him on LinkedIn and he responds. So I really
Yeah.
like that. So he's not like hiding behind anything. And this is what he's done forever. And he's super comfortable with that.
This is something that I'm very big on, and I get this, tagged on Twitter constantly about different projects, and I always like, okay, well, let's break down the project, maybe we look into it. It's usually these anons that I'm always a little bit skeptical of when you look at the teams or the project leaders, the devs, et cetera. So you're right. I think with Chiliz, the fact that they've got an accessible team and kind of the focus and the mission of what they're trying to do from a sports side of things could be big. Obviously, they got a tie-in with Leo Messi, which is the biggest soccer player in the world. They also have their Chain 2.0, which is their testnet. Scoville is now live, which could become another big advantage for what Chiliz is trying to do. And I think in general, when you look at the sports ecosystem, we're going to see a lot more of this coming. I mean, we've already seen this with Top Shots and, obviously in the NFL, along with many other markets out there, especially in the sports side of things. However, those are the big guys. Here's my question. Do you think, and you've been in sports yourself, pro career, doing, fitness and bodybuilding, when you think about the secondary sport categories, maybe it's F1 racing, or maybe it's something like tennis or golf, do you think that NFTs can bridge across into those categories that maybe don't have the awareness?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, well, I like how many people, I love all the teams that they're already integrated with. I think that's their genius right now is that they really looks like definitely started with soccer. And I just think that people want to control so the fan tokens will work, and they're also focused on one thing, this fan
Yeah.
token. And as long as they stay focused on that, I think that they could become, even if they're not number one, the only one, they could be. But for sports, I definitely think that they've done the right thing. They've a lot of time integrating into different teams. We'll
Yeah.
gravitate to the one with the most relationships.
Yeah, and just full disclosure, guys, there's always good side and bad side on projects. If you look at this Verge story, just so you are aware, fan token company Socios accused of doing some price manipulation. If you look at the first lead in, this is, of course, their CEO, founder of the tokenized Socios. They've been accused, of course, of withholding payments in order to maintain the price of Chiliz. So within all these projects, I want you to be aware that there's always risk. So you have to take risk assessments in your own portfolios. Don't always just look at just the positives. You're always going to have negatives within every project out there. If you're a Cardano lover, there's going to be people out there saying it's too slow. If you are a Solana lover, there's people out there saying, hey, it just is in beta and never works. There's all those kind of scenarios and naysayers. So just be aware of that when you are looking and building a portfolio list. Let's get into Enjin. This one is definitely on, at least it's on my list, and I wanted to get your opinion on Enjin. When you look at that, again, kind of the big brother with Affinity and the tie-in to Polkadot and Parachains, which has really been its claim to fame. What are your thoughts on, say, for instance, their partnerships in general? Do you like what you're seeing with Enjin?
Yes, I do. I think that Enjin is, well, first of all, like the main where people, the cross-chain compatibility for people on in-game assets, being able to take them cross-chain is basically going to become the marketplace where people, for every single object, a waste of money and before Enjin as far as in-game assets. But I love their partnerships, and I think that that's kind of how they're bringing the billions of users to their partnering with the big guys.
Yeah. I was just looking at their website. They've integrated to a ton of different places. And when you look at Enjin, I want you to kind of take a look at this because they're looking at use cases for businesses as well. Obviously, the developer side, because Enjin is one of the core apps for developers. And I think that's another factor when you look at NFT ecosystems is, do they have the full package? Is it something that they're doing or have the ability to really dive into a lot of different, sectors? And I think obviously being the, the individual side of things from gaming and NFT usage all the way into businesses using NFTs and maybe going in that direction is for sure a big advantage of that. I want to jump over to our first poll. And this is, guys, just so you're aware, this is, there's going to be 4 tokens on this. We're actually analyzing 6 today, but there's 3 tokens on this. So you're going to get the first poll, and then we're going to split the other half of it into the next poll. So you'll get 2 polls here real quickly. So let's run the first poll and see how this one is holding up. So part 1, we've got which of these tokens should be added to the portfolio. So we got Ecomi holding in right now, Flow as number 2, and Affinity at number 3 on that group. And then we'll jump to Wax and Chiliz and our other one for sure before we get finished up here. So as I said, we'll bring this in at the end. You'll get a chance to see the winners of today's polls, and then we take those and we build those into our portfolio and continue to create our portfolio series. So at the end of the whole series, we're going to have a full portfolio, and it's including Bitcoin, Ethereum, along with these others. And again, this is really targeted at buying at bargain basement prices. Which ones do you want to be involved in for sure? All right, so Cheryl, let's get into Flow. Let's talk about that because there's some things obviously happening with Flow. You've got NBA Top Shot, UFC is in here, Ubisoft, all kinds of great use cases. But at the same time, Flow has not been a token that has been a high flyer. What are your thoughts on this one?
Well, I always say, I mean, I look at like what the height of the market was for each token and where it is now and how long. Why is it 32 times down? And then kind of dig into what's going on. But basically, um, I like Flow because I think they are a slow, steady, completely future focused token. They are not so worried about what's going on at, right. And it's like they're sacrificing a little bit of their centralization to make and slowly decentralize every single thing. And I think they're just worried about the billion future users and developers. And they're really to the long game. They're in it on the long game. I like Flow. I think that they're someone to watch, and they're kind of like a hidden token right now because they may be boring or they may claim decentralization, but they're really somewhat centralized. But they're slowly decentralizing every single thing.
Well, and I think we're watching a little bit of their promo, which is pretty fantastic. I mean, they do a good job, I think, overall on just how they're going about it. But again, we scanned down through the partnerships are what continue to surprise me with this project and why we haven't seen them really kind of break out. So it is kind of an interesting scenario for sure. All right, so Flow you like, and again, I think all these tokens, because they're in our list, we like them. The question is how do they end up ranking in our overall list? You guys have seen the list of our first three in the poll side of things, and Flow kind of came in there at the end. So will it make it into our 20? Remember, when we do stack ranking, the way that works is we take a third of the model that we're looking at. You guys are part of it. So the first part of it is your poll. The second part of it is basically my ranking, and then the third part is our CPI monthly score. So we'll average those three scores together. We come up with a final score, and then we stack rank those by final score, and we throw out the bottom 20%. So it's the way that it kind of creates at least governance in essence around this investment strategy for this series. All right, let's get into Wax, because this is one of the most understood and yet misunderstood projects out there. But at the same time, we've had William Quigley on a couple of times, the CEO and founder of Wax, and I would say one of the smartest guys in the space when it comes to NFTs. He's been around for a long time. What are your thoughts on Wax, and what do you like about their viral technology, which is kind of their claim to fame?
I like, again, that they are hyper focused, but attaching an NFT to a real world object that transfers ownership without having to physically move is, I think, genius. Definitely a business use case. And I'm 1,000% for Wax, not to mention that if it hit its all-time high, it would be 62 times what it is right now.
Right.
But I really like that. I like the viral NFT and basically attaching it to a business. I mean, I basically submitted a project on Cardano for this very thing. It was attaching an NFT to a real world object that people can enjoy. I mean, it's good. Everything is virtual, but and it's good to buy an NFT and then have it actually delivered to your home. But in their case, it's buy an NFT and just switch ownership and not physically move, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I think with what they're trying to do in general, Wax, first of all, they claim their biggest claim to fame is their speed and their capacity to be able to handle really big drops. And this is one thing that a lot of people argue on the blockchain, is that there's a lot of platforms out there that do struggle with congestion, network speed. We've had some complaints within a lot of different kinds of drops, whether you look back at land projects and other NFT drops that have been out there that have struggled, and that yet Wax has been one that has been out there with the capability of doing up to, I think one that they've hit on is around 1 million transactions. So when you think about brands jumping into this space, someone like a Coca-Cola, someone like an Apple or a Disney or et cetera, and obviously we know some of the brands that Wax is already involved in, That's going to be one of the critical things. Do you feel like if you were looking at the projects out there, Cheryl, right now that could handle big brands, who would they be, do you feel like right now? Would Wax be in your list?
Definitely think Wax would be on the list, and just the more simplified that they can create with these brands, the faster they're going to onboard people, because every single thing in crypto for the person who just realizes they want to get involved is confusing. So partner with the big brands, but just make it super simple.
Yeah,
I think that like a lot of these that we're talking about, they're also all claiming carbon neutral.
right.
And that's kind of a common theme in like our top that just happen to be the people that are kind of winning right now. And
Sure.
that's also for what the market's claiming.
Yeah, for sure. Let's get into our last token, which is OMI. And this one's exciting because if you're a VV, fan and you are a collector, this is the token for you. There's a lot happening within the space too. OMI is, and VV in general, have kind of come together with a new solution around essentially your ability to start using that token as a payout. So there's potentials now to actually get payouts coming on the VV app, a lot happening. So the mobile first tech obviously is one of their biggest advantages. What are your thoughts when you look at OMI and just the collectible space in general? Do you think this has kind of that upside for the future of where it's going? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I love Vivi, and I think that they're right on track with mobile first, because every single thing that we're looking at, some people, we're all looking for, do they have a mobile app? That's why on the Chiliz, I was not really super happy with their mobile version. Everyone, just research says that everyone's having trouble getting their money out. But I like that they're mobile first. I have used their app, I have it downloaded, and think the future for Ecomi is good.
Yeah, they have a non-circulating supply here. This chart's it's combining their reserve, their vault, and their burn charts along with their linear trends. And if you look at this does show some pretty amazing transaction capabilities here for what OMI could do in the short term. And again, this is getting back into if you're thinking about what is happening on VV and the explosion of what we've seen in the collectible space, especially as we were seeing the NFT market kind of get to that next level. Granted, sure, we've seen those values come down quite a bit, but now the fact that they have launched and have offered up, and I think it's going to be coming very soon, that capability of to where you're actually going to be able to cash out on your collectibles. And of course, all of this being made, in part by OMI and how all this might play into it. But again, the problem with OMI has been it's very difficult to get to this token. So you have to do a lot of things. I won't tell you guys what the process is to go get to an OB token, but there's a lot that you would have to do to get it done. The other thing that you have to concern yourself with is getting into how do you self-custody this if you did want to go in that direction. There's a lot of things that are you have to consider when you are looking at OMI in general. Cheryl, I wanted to ask you, when you look at this whole issue right now, especially around volatility in the market, and everybody going, or at least we're seeing massive trends towards self-custody, how do you manage your NFTs from a self-custody standpoint, or do you trust the wallets that are out there?
I don't trust the wallets that are out there. I do use, you know, um, browser wallets.
Yeah,
And, for Cardano, of all the choices, of course, I choose the Daedalus, which is downloading it to my machine. Every single option I have would be to get it to a hardware wallet, period.
right.
I mean, as I'm always anxious and uninstalling it from my browsers if it's not available sometimes. But I prefer to put my NFTs on a ledger or hardware wallet.
Yeah. Have you found the process from NFTs, especially when you look at all the different ecosystems that are out there with NFTs, and even to some projects that may not necessarily have the capability of going onto Ledger, what would be your self-custody strategy when you run into maybe, obscure land project or a token that's supporting a certain kind of NFT or an in-game NFT? What are your thoughts on how that is done through a self-custody standpoint? At that time, would you stay with something like, a MetaMask or, a traditional browser wallet when you kind of have more limited options?
I don't hold I don't hold anything in a browser wallet regarding NFTs. It's kind of like my middleman,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Just a pass through.
middlewoman for all those out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's somewhere to hold them temporarily until I can move it to something that it's either downloaded to my computer or secured
Yeah.
better than just a browser. I love the
Yeah.
browser wallets because they're super easy, but I will use it as a middle ground to move them somewhere more secure.
Yeah. I think that's been a little bit of the trend here recently. Obviously, over the past 30 days, we've seen a lot of volatility in many different places. People taking tokens and including Bitcoin and ETH coming off of exchanges in massive amounts, actually the largest amounts of tokens coming off. My question is whether or not we're going to continue to see trading volumes sliding, especially like what I was just looking at OpenSea data this morning. Continue on downtrends. When do you think we'll see some uptrends for OpenSea traffic or something like Magic Eden, et cetera, on some of these NFT platforms for actual trading again? Do you think we'll see this during this next run up, or do you think it's a scenario that we just got to get past a little bit of this troubled time right now?
The funny thing is, like, a lot of these projects still have a lot of trading.
Yeah, yeah,
Going on. Much scams is happening. People are still putting a lot of their money into NFTs, and surprisingly, they're holding their value. When I go look at past projects, I think probably are tanked right now. They're still not, and
yeah,
so I just think the money is moving, and so
exactly. Yeah,
it's just out of some of the bigger currencies and into some of the projects because they're still holding their value.
exactly. Yeah. Is there any, when you're looking at NFTs today and you just look at the individual projects itself, what are you looking at today that you would say, hey, I might consider buying this in the next, say, 2 to 3 weeks in a short window? Anything special that you're looking at
As
right
far
now?
as the tokens are the
Or
actual
just, no,
NFTs.
NFTs, yeah, the NFT side.
I am 100% always looking for NFTs that have real world value.
Hmm.
I just I'm really looking at the background of the real world value because in the end I just don't a lot of them will make it because there's just a lot of great hype and there's just a lot of great projects with great backing of people. Even
Right.
some that look kind of dorky or super successful.
Yeah,
But for me, I just look for that e-commerce slash real world backing of NFTs. Like, what does this represent to me in the future, other than a part of a
exactly.
game? Although
Yeah,
I do think that super valuable NFTs would be in-game assets that other people can't buy. That you can either, I think those are super valuable. So I would say real world or
in
in-game
game. Yeah.
assets that people are like, oh, I really need that sword. I really need that. I'm not
Hmm.
going to buy it, but I'll just go rent it from this person who took their money and bought it.
Yeah, for sure. I'm in agreement. I like utility use cases where even in the essence of with something like a Gary Vee or even what you look at with Moonbirds, I talk about those all the time. I see those as utility potentials for access levels. Whether it's access to information, access to people, conferences, those kind of things that always, and I still think we're going to see more and more of that for sure. Let's jump over to our poll because we're going to bring in our last three so you guys will get a chance and then we'll take a few questions and then wrap it up for today. Let's take a look. All right, so wow, this is an interesting one. All right, so Wax, Chiliz, or Enjin. Enjin wins that one hands down at 56%. So looks like Enjin will make its way into the portfolio for sure. All right, guys, and gals, let's take a look at a couple of the questions today because there's a few in here. One, Hill Dog, Wax P or Wax E? I'm kind of the Wax P side of things, but again, if you are looking at Wax in general as a token, the bigger question I always look at for Wax is their partnerships, because that's usually indicating where and what Wax is going to be doing. So if you want to learn a lot about Wax, check out our video with William Quigley. We've done 2 interviews with him, and he's very good at explaining how Wax P and Wax E work. Let's go to Viral Tube. Ultra will dominate NFT. Have you seen anything with Ultra? Cheryl, what are your thoughts
I
on? Are
haven't.
you doing
I
anything?
have. I have. I actually have not put a lot of energy into researching Ultra.
Yeah.
Um,
Now we've had their
but I
guys
think they
on.
have.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just saying
I
we had
haven't put a lot of.
their two founders on.
Okay. I think that they are going to be heavy into. I mean, definitely. All right. This guy says dominate NFT gaming. I think it's potential, but I haven't put a lot of research into it, to be honest.
Yeah, if you want to check out a little bit about those, check again our video on it because the two co-founders there, we had them on an interview, and Ultra. When you do look at that project, if you kind of read between the lines of that interview, you'll learn a lot more about what they're doing. All right, Katrina, Omi already had big companies. Yes, for sure. I think just their partnerships in general continuing to grow. The big win for Omi is going to be the VV connection and its ability to cash out. That's probably going to be the biggest win of all, I think. File number 0001. This looks like a new follower. I like Flow, but they are slow. She took the words right out of my mouth. I like that one.
Yeah.
Let's go to
I like to focus on this on the slow actually because they're the turtle. The
they're the
turtle in the hare.
underperformers, but they always end up being there at the end of the race. It's the funny thing, for sure. Let's take a look here. Would Theta be considered NFT or metaverse? We'd probably put that in the metaverse group. I would say VV obviously has so much happening with Disney, but I still think VV, the potential upside for that, from an aspect of just creators, and I still think artists and personalities, celebrities, etc. I don't think they've completely gone this direction just yet. And when they do, VV could be a spot where they land, which would be really interesting for Omi.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I think there's this whole like the middle tier entertainers and down
Yeah,
haven't really gotten into it, but there's so
right.
many of them that once they do, then yes.
They'll figure it out for sure. All right, so we got some more here. Phantasma with their dynamic NFTs will be awesome. We've looked at Phantasma a couple of times. Actually had them on one of our portfolio videos in the past. It was one that we invested on short term, but definitely. This one would be good for you, Cheryl. Thoughts on Cardano NFTs, CNFTs, because you've actually gone through this process, right?
Yes, and I will say they make getting an approved official project on CNFT, they
Yeah.
make it difficult. They make it
Yeah.
difficult for the average person. Go create your own collection on OpenSea in a heartbeat. In fact, I have a video that I actually did for the exact step-by-step process to go from I just created an NFT to getting it as an approved, like you could call it like a blue check mark for
Right.
Cardano on the CNFT. And I never actually, it's unlisted because there are a lot of my comments in there that could be portrayed as negative. It just is too complicated waiting for individuals going through their process. But
Yeah.
I I do if Cardano could make the onboarding of official projects easier, specifically on CNFT.io is what I'm referring to,
Yeah.
then they would have more people doing it. I just think
Well, this
it's
is the thing
yeah.
that I think has to happen for the NFT market to truly make it to the next level is we do need those platforms, especially with a lot of these variation platforms like Cardano, to be able to make the onboarding and also the engagement side, because it's not only the onboarding, then you got to have the marketplace that's equally engaging. All of that has to click. And I think we're still, it's like I've talked about many times on this show. We are literally, it's like Web 1.0, where everything was just so clunky. Half the websites didn't work. Graphics were terrible. It was an era in which the birth of the internet was occurring. I think that's what we're watching right now with NFTs. A couple more questions and we'll get out of here.
It wasn't. I was just
Go
going to
ahead.
say it wasn't until October that Cardano could do
Yeah.
the royalties.
Yeah.
And yeah, but they can now. It's just not everyone knows how to use GitHub, so they need to make it easy.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. All right, here, a Crescent Glow, going to have to wait for NFTs on the XRP ledger. Yes, but I think they will be coming. XRP is continuing to kind of expand their market categories, and I should say Ripple for sure. By the way, we're going to have John Deaton on for you Ripple lovers out there this week, talking about what's up with Ripple. Hey, Cheryl, it's always fun having you in on the show. I can't wait to drill down next week when we get back into Metaverse Insider to talk about a ton of new projects coming next week. So it's going to be fun. Thanks again for stopping in. We appreciate it.
All right, thanks for having me. I'll see you next week.
You bet. All right, so you guys, of course, have, if you're not checking out our Metaverse Insider show, it's in our normal array of our YouTube channel. Cheryl co-hosts that with me. We do a lot of drill downs in NFTs, Metaverse projects, things of that nature, because we do think that is going to be a big market coming down the road. Of course, right now, guys, I understand there's a lot of volatility. Everybody wants, Paul, give us the update on Voyager. What's happening with Celsius? What's going on with Nexo? What's happening with FTX and Bitcoin and all that kind of stuff? Guess what? We're going to have multi-streams today. We're going to drill down into all of that, including the issue with Voyager and their little bit of secrecy of not being a actual FDIC insured project with your US dollars. We'll break into all of that in an upcoming live stream. So make sure and stay tuned. Later in the afternoon here, Eastern time, we'll probably stream around 2 and 3 today. So be watching for the live streams. If you have not subscribed to the channel, get in now and click the bell. It will notify you of these live streams. There's going to be a lot of hot stuff coming your way today. If you guys want to drop some comments below after the live stream and you've maybe seen this and said, wow, we should check out more stuff, or you have someone that you'd love us to get an interview with, drop it in the comments below. If you want to reach me, it's out on Twitter, @Paul Barron. I'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.